Yes, hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us in this online event with our partner, Guardicore. It's been just introduction here. It's been a dangerous and weird period in many aspects. In that sense, we are grateful having you here as attendees for our partners and customers and promising for a live event when circumstances allow on the next occasion. Now, putting today's topic in a perspective, as you all know, GCC as a value-added distributor always works towards distributing solutions and not only products. So focusing in security and networks, we noticed that there is a gap with respect to solutions within the data center, private or public or hybrid, on the visibility and security in micro-segmentation, VMs, containers, bare metal, and cloud. And that's where Guardicore fits in. Founded in 2013, Guardicore is a global leader and innovator in internal data center security, focused on delivering more accurate and effective ways to stop advanced threats through visibility, micro-segmentation, and real-time threat detection and response. Developed by the top cybersecurity experts in their field, Guardicore is changing the way organizations are fighting cyber attacks in their data center and clouds. Guardicore has a unique software-defined approach to segmentation based on full visibility between application and servers running both on premises, virtual or physical, and on cloud instances. Using your actual traffic and application dependencies, you will be able to rapidly create accurate, robust, and granular segmentation policies. Guardicore solution automatically maps your entire IT ecosystem, giving you serious eyes in the back of your head so that no breach attempt goes unnoticed. And you gain a strong understanding of even the most heterogeneous of environments. It's been built on a foundation of visibility, providing both network layer 4 and application process level, layer 7 visualization across entire heterogeneous environments. With this level of visibility, the platform's policy engine delivers simple implementation and enforcement of global policies, segmentation between application networks, and process-to-process level micro-segmentation. With a dramatically reduced attack surface, the platform then continues to monitor all east-west data center traffic flow and identifies all malicious activities based on policy violation, reputation services, and user behavior analytics. All suspicious traffic is dynamically redirected out to a Guardicore's deception environment, where an attacker is allowed to continue their work while their honeypot system captures extensive intel on the attack. Who, where, and what. Based on this intel, the platform automates incident response with highly relevant remediation steps. All of these capabilities are delivered from a single platform in a converged fashion, seamlessly across hybrid environment. So, for more details, passing now the floor to our esteemed partners in Guardicore, to specifically Eran and Lior, which will be presented throughout the event. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Nikos. I will now share the screen. Please give me permission.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, guys. Pleasure being here, giving the opportunity to talk a bit about Guardicore's approach to modern segmentation. We see that today's networks are growing ever complex. We see security measurements are having trouble keeping up, actually. We see the customers that are struggling trying to solve the complex issues in their network with great effort. These challenges are a result of the old approach of network segmentation, actually, which is limiting customers' option in achieving their ultimate goals. Here at Guardicore, we started a company, like Nikos said, to simplify the way in which customers could solve complex segmentation challenges. Today, we're going to discuss that in detail and talk about some different use cases and benefits that our customers experience. So just to introduce myself, I'm Eran Chaim. I'm a system engineer for Guardicore. I do the Mediterranean and Nordic region in Guardicore. I worked as a network architect at IBM, also as a pre-sale engineer and Juniper instructor for Aero. I have a baby girl, and I like doing workout and extreme sports. Okay, Guardicore was founded in 2013. We already founded $110 million. We are growing ever rapidly with exponential growth with employees and customers. And actually, Guardicore was also listed as #1 company to work for by Forbes. And as Nico says, our primary goal is data center and cloud security to simplify the way we do segmentation for our customers. As you can see here, we have a customer from a variety of different vectors. We can see financial, like TD Bank, Santander Group, and Deutsche Bank, which are a huge bank actually across the world. We see also pharma from Intermountain Healthcare, Novartis. We have also retail with the form of Gap with tens of thousands of agents. Also a service provider and gaming with Betfair and British Telecom. So we have a bunch of customers from all of different industries and vectors actually, and they all have their unique use cases. So basically they all decided to go for a specific use case for segmentation and to solve their challenges in a much easier and modern way. So what do we actually see in the market? We see that data center transformation is increasing risk, guys. We see that customers are using a variety of different tools, basically, whether it's for virtualization, if we have VMware, Hyper-V, Nutanix. We also see the use of cloud, public clouds, whether it's AWS, Azure, Oracle Cloud, which is our customers as well, and Google Cloud. Also use of containers, orchestration methods, different virtual machines, bare metal servers. All of these different infrastructure are creating complexity for customers in the way that they need to manage different environments, address different technologies. Maybe they need to configure their firewall on the on-prem, but they need to configure the security groups on Azure, but they have also a new container environment, and they need to connect it to the DR. So all of these different controls are adding complexity, and the lack of visibility is creating the risk and making it difficult for customers to control the segmentation in their environment. So segmentation, it was never easy, and we see that only getting harder, right? Many customers, when I visit them, we see that they have a rather flat network, not maybe segmented in some way, but there's always some sort of a servers VLAN that holds most of the organization applications. And inside this VLAN, servers can talk freely. So we see that servers can talk to whoever they want. Customers are not able to identify the visibility or see the dependencies, which application is talking to who. And if someone if someone wants to make a change in the network, the traditional way in which we do this kind of segmentation is hard. It's manual. We do not have any visibility, like we said, customers, don't have any visibility to inter-VLAN traffic. It's tied to the infrastructure, which means we need to go switch by switch, port by port, and change the configuration. It requires downtime as we change the infrastructure, we change the application IP, we change the VLAN, we might need to move the servers for a different place. We will need to configure firewall rules, maybe publish a new routing segment. So basically we see all of these are creating the complexity and making it hard to actually move to different areas. Okay? And if we think about the fact that most of the protection mechanisms are in the perimeter, which means traffic coming from the internet, it means that if some attacker or malware is able to get into our network, to our servers VLAN, he would probably stay there for a lot of time before we even notice what's happening. Okay? Cool. So what is Guardicore's approach in this matter? First of all, we give you full visibility down to the process level in any location. And we do it in a single pane of glass. This means that it doesn't matter if you have virtual machines, bare metal servers, cloud instances, or containers, we can cover everything from a single platform, give you full visibility down to the application level, the process level, okay? And also tie it to a security policy. Okay, it doesn't matter if the servers are in the same VLAN or different countries. We can cover them both. So this solution is infrastructure agnostic, as we say. We don't care what is the underlying infrastructure, if it's VMware, if it's Hyper-V, if it's AWS, we don't care. We give you a single policy set that can cover application across multiple domains. So for example, we can have an application that spans across virtual, bare metal, and cloud instances, and we can configure the same policy to it. There is no need to change any networking in the environment. You can keep everything as is, a flat network or a highly segmented network. It doesn't matter for Guardicore. And because this is a software-based product, we can give you the time to policy in a very rapid manner. This means we do not need to install any firewall in the network. We don't need to install any appliances or any hardware that needs a maintenance window. We just deploy an agent, as this is an agent-based solution, that is really lightweight and basically does not require any downtime, okay? You can install it, remove it, modify it, and the application will continue working as usual, okay? So very easy approach, just gain the visibility to all of the application communication, map them based on what is legitimate and what not, and approve it with the policy, okay? All this solution can also work with DevOps, so we can integrate into this process. And for new machines that are spun up, we can also automatically assign policies and add them to the system. So how Guardicore Centra works, guys? We have a central management platform, and this is not a detailed architecture, right? So we have a centralized management platform which manages all the agents in the different environments, whether it's bare metal, virtual machines, cloud instances, or containers. We manage all from a single pane of glass, and we can integrate also to orchestration sources such as VMware, AWS, Azure, and we can extract information to enrich the system. So for example, we can automatically pull virtual machine names, virtual machine tags. We can do it and enrich the system automatically and help you guys get a better business context into what is happening. Okay, so right now I'm going to jump to the demo. Okay, I'm going to do a short demo and then we're going to discuss some use cases. Okay. Let's go to the demo. Okay, guys. So what you see here actually is the first screen you get once you deploy the product. You deploy the agent, you don't need to configure anything. They generate the initial map for you. So everything you see here, basically you can understand dependencies and communication patterns between servers. But as you can see, it's really complex, right? We have 40 servers here. I imagine you guys have more. We have customers at 4,000, 40,000, and this map, we need to apply some business context to it, right? And this is where Guardicore can apply the different labels onto this specific map. Okay, and again, this map is automatically generated, is the daily map for the last 24 hours, and we can apply many different type of grouping on top of it. And if, for example, we choose the default grouping, it will group this map by environment, application, and role. And then the same data that I have is displayed in a much clearer way. I see different environments talking to one another. I can see the production environment is talking to the common services, have traffic coming from the endpoints, and the remote access. I can also see that I have 30 servers inside the production environment. And if I expand this view, I can see the different applications that are residing inside. And for example, if I focus on the e-com application, I can expand this application as well and see the different tiers that are inside this application and the dependencies for the different tiers. I can see that I have 2 database servers. And now I can see that the servers that I saw in the ungrouped view, only now I have full correlation that this ecom DB2 servers is a production server for the ecom application with a database role. Okay, so I have full correlation into what this server role actually is. And I can expand this view as well to see the processes that are generating traffic the username who issued this process, the process hash, which is validated against a reputation database. Okay, we check if it's a known malware. So every process that is generating traffic, every application is checked against a malware database, a reputation database. And we will notify if we detect some kind of malicious activity in the network. We also show the command line, and we have the orchestration information from VMware in this case. Okay, so as you can see, you can correlate all of the information, all of the flows that you see with source destination IP, domains, and processes as well. So the visibility is in a very granular way to understand the dependencies and what's happening in your network across domain in the same VLAN. It doesn't matter. But what I want to show you here is another interesting thing. We can see the environment, application, and role labels on the map, but we also see here on the right that we have more labels associated with this ecom server, right? We have the application, environment, and role, but we also have platform. We also have operating system, and we have compliance. So for example, if I choose the same data, the same 24 hours daily map that I'm looking at right now, but I will change the grouping, for example, to an operating system, I can now see different operating systems talking to one another in my network. And if I want to see all of the Windows servers that are going to the internet, I can see them right here. And I can create a simple rule that says Windows updates or Linux updates, a Linux server, for example, can only go to ubuntu.com. Okay. I can create an FQDN rule based on the operating system and manipulate this behavior. Or for example, if I have a hybrid environment, I can change the visibility to show me environment with a platform context. So now I would see the same environments that I showed you before, but if I drill down to the production environment, you would see that now I have 3 platforms. I have my on-prem, I have my Azure, and my AWS. And if I go to AWS, I see that I have 2 applications here. And these servers are actually sitting on AWS, guys. So we pull the information from the orchestration. We have all the data here. We see the applications that are running inside. So we have full support for AWS as well as the on-prem. And as you can see, we are visualizing all in the same screen. So you are able to see your on-prem installation, your Azure, and your AWS, all with the production context in the same screen. Okay? So again, the visibility options here are basically unlimited. You can create any type of label you want, apply it, and then create visibility based on it. And based on the visibility map, you will create the policy. Let me show you how we create a policy inside Guardicore, so we can understand how easy it is actually to do this inside the platform. So what we will do, first we would scope an application. We would select our application and filter by this item to get the view that we're seeing here, okay? Not to see all the noise with the other application, basically. So I would select this application, right-click, and edit policy. This will bring me to the policy editor. And now I can see that I have no rules configured currently. In order to start configuring, I would right-click my application, and I can select out of these 2 options, create application segmentation policy. This will generate the initial policy for me, which says any traffic coming from label environment development and application ecom can talk to itself. Okay, so all of these servers are now whitelisted, and this is why we see the flows are green. Okay, we see the flows are green because now they're whitelisted. Apart from that, the system generated a rule for me that says any traffic that is trying to access my ecom application in the development environment would get an alert action. Okay, and this is why we see the rule here colored red, because this is the traffic trying to reach my application. But now I will start building my whitelist, my policy. And all I need to do in order to build my policy here is select the flow that I want to whitelist, right-click it, and add as allow rule. We can see the system automatically generate the correct rule for me with the source label, environment, infrastructure, and application jump box, and destination label, ecom application, and development environment. but we see that the policy is also tied to the process, the application level, which says only wget from the jump box is allowed to contact the ECOM in the specific Nginx process. And they're allowed to do it only on destination port 80. So the enforcement here is on a very granular level. Based on labels, which are dynamic, we can add a new jump box tomorrow and the same policy would apply. And it will also enforce on the processes in the source of destination and the port, okay? So actually we just selected the rule, selected the flow, add allow rule, and it generated the rule for us. But if we do it from a different hierarchy, for example, if I choose that the web server is allowed to talk to the DC, you would see that now the rule is added with an additional criteria of the web server role. Okay, not only the ECOM application, it's also selecting the web server. This means that the platform is intelligent to understand which hierarchy are you specifying. If you want to allow specifically the web server to talk to the DC or all of the ECOM application. All you need to do generally is just select the flow, right click, and add an allow rule. That's it, guys. And as you can see here, all the flows are whitelisted from the map that we created in the last 24 hours. And every other traffic that's trying to access my application will get an alert action, which means I will allow the traffic, but generate a policy violation incident. Okay. This is like a learning mode. We created our initial whitelist, but we're not sure if any new flow will maybe be dropped. So we don't want to drop it. We just want to log it. An alert action will do just that. It will, again, allow the traffic, but will generate a policy violation incident about the violation. If, for example, I gave it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month at the learning mode, I can simply go over here, hover it, and move it to the block section. From that moment forward, when I publish the policy, it will start blocking traffic that is not whitelisted here. Okay? As you can see, policy creation is very simple, few clicks, a few buttons, and we created the policy. And this is actually how we do it also in POCs and production environment, just to validate the flows, then select them and add them to the policy. Okay, guys, back to the presentation. So I'm going to discuss some customer use cases, and then we'll have time for questions. The first thing we see customers using this product for is for environment segmentation. And this is something you will not generally think about with regard to software-defined or micro-segmentation products, but actually this is something that we simplify in a great deal. And the reason that the traditional methods are, again, using VLANs and firewall, and doing environment segmentation in this way requires downtime, and it's very, very complex. For example, we had a customer, a global top 25 bank, who needed to segment production and development environment because they discovered that across time, they installed development server in production VLAN and production server in development VLAN, and they needed to remove them, basically, to be compliant, only development server in the development VLAN and production server in the production VLAN. The problem was that they had more than 10,000 servers, and it was really slow to progress. It was hard for them to understand. They needed to move servers from one place to another. It was really complex for them. And they estimated it would take them 2 years to do it with traditional VLAN and firewall segmentation. With Guardicore, they actually did it in 6 months, when most of the time was just whitelisting flows that they discovered in the alert mode that we discussed before. So again, 10,000 non-compliant servers, zero downtime. Guys, zero downtime. They just deployed agents on the infrastructure, visualized, labeled, and create one rule that production does not talk to development, and just started to whitelist. So it was much faster for them, less intrusive, no downtime, and much easier for the company in general. Critical application ring fencing is also a popular use case that we see. It comes back to what we mentioned before, that, for example, we have a servers VLAN, and we notice that now some applications or servers are very important, for example, the billing application or accounting or Swift application, and we want to segment them. And customers, when they do it with traditional controls, they find out that it could be challenging because the lack of visibility, they don't know the dependencies of the application, which part they need to move. Maybe they forgot a database. A lot of challenges and downtime they need to withstand. And with Guardicore, we simplify that. And a customer example for that is a top 25 bank that wanted to segment, ring fence their Swift application. But the problem was that the Swift was spread across bare metal, Virtual, VMware, and OpenStack servers. And the complexity in different environments made it very hard for them to be able to accomplish this kind of segmentation challenge. They estimated it would take them roughly a year to do it because they didn't have any visibility. It required downtime. As you know, Swift is a very sensitive application, and they were very anxious and scared about what is going to happen with this segmentation project. And again, they estimate it would take them 1 year with at least 5 people involved and downtime. They had no visibility. And with Guardicore, they actually did it in 2 weeks with 1 architect with no downtime. And the reason for that is that for us, doing a segmentation project for this scale, it was a couple tens of servers. It's really easy for Guardicore, okay? Because we just install the agents, no need of downtime, gain full visibility down to the process level, and then just go with the application owner and decide which flow we need to whitelist. This process is much, much faster than doing it in a traditional way. Again, no need to change anything in the network, no need to create new VLAN, no need to re-architect anything, downtime, nothing is needed here. Just install agents, get the visibility, do the enforcement like I showed you in the demo. Okay, so very, very easy. Third-party access control, user identity enforcement is also supported features in Guardicore. We can do it for external users, external suppliers, remote users, which Lior will discuss shortly. And we can also do it for internal users, okay? For VDI, desktop, and laptop environments, but I will not touch it as Lior will discuss it in detail. But also we can do blacklisting, which is not mentioned. Any questions? Let's see what we have here. Okay. Okay, guys. I don't see any questions here. Okay, I don't see any questions, so I will continue to Lior's part. Lior, you're here?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you can stop sharing. I'll share it
Okay.
for my machine, if that's okay. Just a second. Right. Hi, everyone. Can you see my screen, Eran?
Yeah, we can see it.
Perfect. So hi, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. Eran, thank you for the great presentation. If anybody has another question about my part or about Eran's part or anything in general, please use the Q&A tab in the Zoom meeting to ask any question. We're looking forward to answering them. What I wanted to share with you today is Eran gave you a general overview of Centra, and I'd like to use the next 20 minutes or so to tell you a bit about how Centra can help you secure remote access. Because this is a growing challenge. We see a lot of companies facing new or big challenges around how do you secure your remote access, and Centra is an amazing tool in order to help with that. And I'll use my talk to tell you how, but before that, just a few words about myself. So I'm Lior, VP of Products today in Guardicore. Spent a lot of time in the Israeli Defense Forces, leading software architecture, development, and product. And today I spend most of my time with my 2 kids, Michael, who is 6, and Naama, who had her birthday yesterday. She's 1 year old. For the last 2 or 3 months, my main hobby was spending the lockdown playing video games with my son. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. Okay, let's talk about remote access. So this pandemic thing, which you might have noticed, triggered a lot of changes. And a lot of companies who were not totally prepared for employees working from home suddenly had to accept this new reality. And this meant one of two things. Either companies just didn't have any way to enable workers to work from home, or they had something, but they suddenly had to scale it and they had to address a lot of new demand around remote work. And the challenge is very simple. What companies want to do is to let their employees and users access their applications as they're in the office. They need to have the same experience, not going through any kind of complicated setups. Because you really want your employees to work exactly like before, get access to the same applications, same machines, do the same tasks. So how do you do that? So we see mainly 3 ways of companies enabling remote work. The first one is simply VPN. You take a laptop, the worker's laptop, VPN into the perimeter and work with your favorite applications. Sometimes you also use jump boxes or terminal servers, so users don't directly access, once they're connected to the VPN, they don't directly access their servers, but they need to go through some kind of terminal server or jump box. And in some organizations, you also have virtual desktop environments. Now, virtual desktop today comes in many shapes. You have on-prem solutions, for example, VMware Horizon or Citrix, but you also have public cloud solutions, the desktop as a service, you have it in AWS, in Azure, and more. So we see a variety of these being used. But if you think about it, in order to use them correctly and in a secure way, you have to work. You have to work to secure this new work from home scenario. Now, how do you do it? How do you do it with traditional security tools? And what I'm describing here is the right way of doing it. If all you have is traditional security, such as firewalls, this is what you usually do. First of all, not all users and not all employees are equal. You have, for example, employees from the finance department, from R&D, from marketing, and each one of these users need to access different servers and different applications. And you don't want people from R&D, you don't want them to be able to access finance servers, right? Or the other way, you don't want marketing people to touch R&D stuff. So what do? Traditionally, first of all, you take your remote access servers and you separate them. So for example, if you have a VDI environment, you build these VDI clusters or VDI pools for each user group. And you do it because then you build a policy, a firewall policy, which is different for each group. If you only want to allow the finance people to access specific things, you direct them to a specific VDI range, and then you go to your firewall and you build a policy for finance around that VDI pool. So you do that with firewalls. You do that with the applications themselves. So each group only has access to its own applications. That needs definitions in the VDI environment and again in the firewall. And what you end up with is a rather complicated setup, right? This is not easy to set up and it's not easy to maintain. And actually building the correct policy is really hard, because how do you know? Now you suddenly have to know exactly which servers are required by the finance team, and you need to understand exactly which ports to open to these servers. And this is hard to do with traditional security methods. So what do okay, not only is it hard, it's also expensive. It's expensive for two reasons. One, it simply requires more servers, more hardware. If you separate this VDI environment into different pools and different groups, it means that you will have more servers. And these servers aren't utilized very well, right? Because each server will only serve a very small group of people, which means they may not be utilized completely. And on top of that, it's not just the hardware, it's not just the servers, it's also the amount of resources and time it takes to set this entire thing up. So now your operations, your IT, your security teams, they need to define new networks, they need to define new VDI pools, they need to create the correct policy. This takes time. It's complex and it's error prone. So what do companies do? They have to give a solution. They have to do it fast. What we see, unfortunately, a lot of times is compromise. Unfortunately, inevitably, you have to give your workers a solution. So, and if you don't have the resources or time to build the correct security, sometimes you take some, you do something in the middle. So, for example, one thing that we see a lot is instead of building a policy for each user type, you just give access, the same access to all users. One size fits all. So now if a user from the finance department connects using remote access and the user from R&D connects, they get the same access policy. This is bad. This is bad because this allows specific employees to be able to connect to servers which they're not allowed to do, which means that if you have some kind of malicious actor, if you have some kind of malicious lateral movements, suddenly it's much easier to do these lateral movements from remote workers' machines into the data center. So that's one kind of compromise that we see, one size fits all. We also, another thing is the lack of visibility. If you think about it, when everyone was in the building, when all the laptops and employees were in the building and they connected to the internal network, you probably had some tools which provided you with good visibility and control over that traffic because you were inside the perimeter. But now suddenly you have laptops which are connecting outside of the perimeter, and you may not have great visibility into what these laptops are doing, which you used to have because they were inside. You may not have great control. Maybe they just VPN inside and there's no good firewall policy for them because again, they're suddenly out of the perimeter. So eventually this leads to worse security, to mediocre security. And it increases the risk to the data center because now these remote workers may be a great entry point for malicious actors. So what do you do? As Eran showed you, Centra makes segmentation really simple. And I won't repeat what Eran showed you, but when you talk about Centra, the main focus are two things, visibility and policy. You want to gain visibility into everything which is going on, and I'll show you how it's relevant for remote access in a second. And you want to create a policy for, regardless of where the workload is, regardless of where they're connecting, you want to be able to create a policy which is applied to your entire infrastructure, laptops, servers, remote workers, on-prem, and everything. So how can Centra help? And I think this is probably the most important part of this presentation. How does Centra help with user access management? So it starts with visibility. You have laptops outside of the perimeter. You have remote workers, which are in their homes or in some branch. You want to gain complete visibility to what these users are doing. So Guardicore gives you endpoint visibility all the way to process level and all the way to the user connection, which means that if you can go and see for every laptop, for any laptop that a worker is using, you can see exactly who's using that laptop, what is it doing, which processes are running, where are they connecting to. And you can do that on laptops, but also on virtual desktops, terminal servers, jump boxes. You get a very, very good level of visibility into what your users and workers are doing. So once you have visibility, the next part is build a good security policy and a good user access policy. Centra allows you to do exactly that. Centra allows you to define a policy on user level, which means that you can control which user is allowed to do what. Okay, so finance users can only access the finance server applications, the finance application. And the HR administrators can only access their HR app and nothing else. And then that policy is super easy to set up using Guardicore, and I'll give you a demo which shows you exactly how it works. Guardicore lets you build a policy which is essentially supports multiple users running on the same machine. So even if you have a terminal server with 8 users connected to it concurrently, Guardicore allows you to control exactly which user can continue lateral movement into the data center. So even if you have 2 users with really different privileges running on the same machine, connected to the same machine, Guardicore allows you to control each user individually and the access policy that user has. We also allow you to control not just remote workers, but also third-party or administrator access management. So if you have vendors or contractors connecting from outside, you can control exactly where they're going and what they're allowed to do. Peer-to-peer isolation. Viruses, worms and malicious actors can jump between laptops or between VDIs. How do you control that? How do you control VDI to VDI traffic? Or how do you make sure that if you have multiple users with laptops, how do you make sure that there's no malicious software spreading between those laptops? Guardicore supports, and I'll show you exactly how it works, setting a policy which doesn't allow traffic to move between these laptops and VDIs. And finally, and this is another trend which we're seeing, when workers are at home, they connect directly to SaaS services, Office 365 or Salesforce or GitHub. They're not in the perimeter. How can you control that users, even when they're outside of your classic perimeters, can only connect to allowed services? And Guardicore also allows you to do that. There are other solutions which let you do some of these things, but if you compare them to what Guardicore offers, Guardicore gives you all of this with a reduced cost. Okay, so if we discussed good security for VDIs and the fact that it requires a lot of servers, once you use Guardicore, you don't have to separate these VDIs. You can build a single VDI cluster for all your users and control their policy with Guardicore. As Eran showed you, it's super simple to manage. You have a single pane of glass, you see all traffic, you build a single policy which applies to all the machines, servers and laptops, without complex management. We don't do VLANs. We do segmentation without VLANs, which means that when you change the policy, when you build a new segment, or when you build a new user policy, there's no downtime, it just works, and no network changes are required. No IPs are changing or anything like that. So super easy and fast, okay? Once you deploy Guardicore, you can build a policy in a few hours and just click publish, and that's it. The policy is there. Okay, let me see if you have any. Okay, Great. I want to answer this question before I move on. So we have a question, what is the reason for end users to access the servers directly? Restriction can be applied at several levels. True. I mentioned that there are different approaches for that. Okay, so sometimes users access servers because that's the application is there, right? So if you have an HR application, it might be on some servers, and these servers just serve, you know, on port 80, and the HTTP portal of that HR application is just served, and users access those servers directly. That's one approach. Another approach is doing that through VDI, right? Guardicore's engine supports all of these. So regardless of how users access these servers, whether it's directly or through VDI or through a jump box, you want to make sure that in the end, there is a network level restriction of who can access what, not just in the login screen. Of course, you can enforce in applications that not all users can log into it, but we're talking about the lower level. We're talking about the network level, and for good security, you really want to make sure that on the network perspective, users can only access the VDIs, or VDIs can only access the servers that they need to access. I hope that answers the question. Okay, what I'd like to do now is to share with you a few use cases, 5 use cases that Guardicore Centra helps with, and show you a quick demo of some of them. Let's start with the first one, the most common one. So you have users, remote employees accessing production applications, accessing infrastructure services, and what you really want to do is to know what these users are doing and to control what they can do with very strong user access management policy. And that user access management policy should only give access to specific users and deny access to all other users for each server. So if you have a good user access policy, this really simplifies stuff for you because you have well-defined segments. And if you're thinking about compliance reasons, that's also actually it's a must-have for compliance. So you think about PCI, for example, you really want to make sure that only specific users can have any kind of network access to PCI compliant servers. What I'd like to show you now is how Centra does this. Okay, just a second, let me jump to the demo. Share my screen. Okay. So what I'll show you now is an environment. This is a live demo, and what you're seeing here is a data center in which you have remote workers accessing the data center. Okay, so already in this high-level map, you see how traffic from this remote access is going into specific other environments. So for example, you see that you have remote access and that it's accessing some applications in the production environment. But if I want to dive in and understand exactly where these users are coming from, I can open this. So for example, I can see that actually this traffic is coming from a VDI environment. And you see here three VDI instances which are connecting to your infrastructure and production environment. And if we want to understand where are they going, we can open the production environment. And now you can see this very clearly. For example, in this map, you can see that the Citrix One machine connected using port 80 to the health insurance application, okay? And the Citrix 3 access the Ecom app. And if you want to understand even more about this, you can dive into more details. For example, okay, this is Citrix 3, but who was the user here? So if I click the connection, if I take a look at the connection itself, I can see exactly who was the user that did this connection. So I know that Doug from Guardicore used the Citrix VDI environment and connected to the e-commerce application. And finally, if I want to go even deeper, I can even see the exact process that Doug used in order to do this connection. And it was a Chrome web browser, okay? So when we talk about visibility to users and to what they're doing, this is what we mean. You get full details on every single action that your users did, which allows you to build a good policy. And I want to show you this policy. So I wanted to do something really simple. I want to protect my e-com application. Okay, my e-com application is sensitive, and I want to make sure that if somebody is trying to access it using SSH, for example, or RDP, I don't want all users to do that. I don't want a regular user to be able to SSH into my e-com application. So how do I do that? By two simple rules. I want the only users I want to enable access to the e-com servers are e-com users from remote access. So this is the allow rule. I want to allow all the e-com users, and that's an Active Directory group. I want to only allow the e-com users to access my production e-com servers on specific ports, 80 and 22. I want to allow that. Any other employee that tries to access these e-com servers from remote access, block it. So now I essentially built a tiny segment which works according to the Active Directory groups, which will only allow very specific users to access my e-com application. And what's the result? Let's see. So what happened after I set these rules is that 2 users tried to access the e-com application. Actually, it wasn't just SSH, it was also port 80. So you see here 2 users from 2 identical VDI machines trying to access this e-com application. One was allowed to do that. Okay, so if I click this, I see that Doug from Guardicore was allowed to access this e-com application because he belongs to the e-com users group. But on the same time, we have Carla from Guardicore who tried to access this application, but as you see, this line is red, she was blocked. And she was blocked because Carla doesn't belong to the e-com users Active Directory group. That's it, as simple as that. So you deploy the Guardicore agents, you set a really simple policy which says who's allowed to connect to what server, and that's it. You press publish and it works. No firewalls, no heavy setup, no high costs. Great. By the way, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A tab to ask them. Okay, moving forward to the next use case. So we talked about user access and how you visualize it and how you control it. This also works when we're talking about jump boxes or terminal servers. So what I showed you was an example of controlling access from VDI. But what if there's no VDI? What if there's some kind of terminal server in the middle which users are supposed to use in order to access their applications? So for example, in this drawing, you have Andy and Doug. Andy is an accounting user, needs to use the accounting application, and Doug needs to use the DMS application. And they're both accessing these applications through a shared jump box. It's a terminal server. They're both using it. What you want to do is to only allow Andy to access the blue application and only allow Doug to access the red application and block anything else. And with Guardicore, this is super easy. Even if they're using the same terminal server, the same jump box, and even if they're using it at the same time. Once you deploy the Guardicore agent on the terminal server, and you create the policy exactly like I showed you in the policy a minute ago, that's it. You say DevOps team can access DMS, analytics team can access accounting, all the rest are blocked, publish, and that's it. Our agent enforces this policy on the jump box itself according to the user identity. So no need for firewall rules, no need for complicated setup. Okay, the third use case is pretty straightforward. We talked a lot about remote workers, but sometimes you have people who are not employees. For example, if you have third-party vendors or partners, these people may be connected to your network through some SaaS or just a VPNing inside, and you really want to handle them correctly. You want to secure their access into your data center in a way that each vendor can only access the things that they're supposed to access. Traditional solutions are based on IP addresses. They're complex to manage. And again, you have to start building these different jump boxes or different entry points for every vendor. With Guardicore, and you have to make sure that they go through some centralized firewall. With Guardicore, you simply don't have to do that. Again, if you have Guardicore deployed on the servers themselves, on the jump boxes, all you need to do is to say, okay, vendor number 1 can access a specific application. Vendor number 2, another application, because that's the only application that they need to access. And this is not just for Corona times. This is true always. You always have external vendors coming in to do some administrative tasks. All right. Fourth use case that I want to demonstrate is peer-to-peer traffic. And this is something that we hear a lot. Companies are afraid that when you have a lot of users using, for example, VDI, nothing is preventing these virtual desktops from communicating with each other. And a lot of times this is bad. You don't want to allow that. For example, you don't want one VDI to SSH to another VDI or to do remote desktop to another VDI. Maybe you do want to allow it, but only for administrators. You don't want regular users to be able to jump around between virtual desktops. This is not something they should be doing, and it actually poses a security risk. So with Guardicore, this is super easy. You want to build a policy which says, okay, IT users, IT administrators can connect between laptops or between VDIs, but regular users cannot do that. And I'll show you how this looks like in Centra. Okay, so take a look at this. This is the policy. This is the only policy. 2 rules enforce the policy that I discussed. So what you want to say is this: I want to allow any server administrators, any user who belongs to the server administrator group, I want to allow them to communicate between remote access machines, 2 remote access machines, for example, VDIs. So I want to allow them to do RDP and SSH between these machines. Any other type of remote to remote or VDI to VDI access using these ports, RDP and SSH, I want to block and alert on it. Okay, very, very straightforward and easy to set up. And this greatly reduces the risk of lateral movement between machines. And how does it look like? Take a look at this. We have 4 Citrix machines here. And you actually see that Citrix 02, okay, there was a user here who activate MSTSC and tried to do, Carla, our administrator, tried to do RDP into different Citrix machines and was successful because Carla is a member of the administrator group. However, on this machine, on Citrix 4, you see that there was an attempt to do RDP to another machine by Andy from Guardicore, and this connection was blocked. And it was blocked because Andy is not an administrator. He should not be able to do RDP between VDI machines. Okay, great. The last use case that I want to show you is whitelisting external connections. I mentioned this earlier. Home users sometimes connect directly to web servers and the web services on the public internet. Some companies force them to go through VPN, but some companies allow the laptops to go directly to the web to access some SaaS applications. With Guardicore, with the same policy, it's really, really easy to build a policy which only allows specific websites. And here's an example for such a policy. So this policy says, okay, I want to block all my remote workers. I want to block access to the internet, except for this list of addresses. Okay, so if they're trying to talk to Salesforce or Office.com, I do want to allow that. And I can even go further and say I only allow Chrome to access those websites. So if you have a specific sanctioned browser and specific sanctioned websites and you want to limit the user's laptops to only be able to connect to those, it's really, really easy to do that. And again, all with the same policy engine and same kind of visibility. And then you'll be able to get alerts if somebody tries to access a different web server. Okay, so those were the 5 use cases that I wanted to show you. How does it all work? As Eran said, super easy. You deploy Guardicore agents. You can deploy them on laptops, desktops, terminal servers, VDIs. You just put it on the golden image, whether it's an on-prem VDI or a desktop as a service solution in a public cloud. That's all it takes to deploy Guardicore on their workloads themselves. And in addition, in order to give this Centra the access to user groups, we also have a special adapter which reads, using LDAP, reads the user groups from Active Directory. And for that, you just need to enable a read-only access to Active Directory so we can pull the user groups available so we can show them in Centra and enable you to build a policy on these user groups. That's it. To sum things up, we think that during this time and probably after, there is going to be a lot of remote activity to your data center. We think it's crucial to secure it properly. And traditional security solutions are just too expensive. They take a lot of time, they're complex to manage, and you might end up with more resources, hardware and human resources needed to do this task. With Guardicore's user identity access management, you get risk reduction. So the attack surface on your data center is greatly reduced. You can control all the user access from a single pane of glass. No need for multiple systems, multiple controls. As I showed you and as Eran showed you, it's super simple to implement. Deploy the agents, build a policy, that's it. No need for any networking changes, no need for downtime, no need to build out new hardware. This is all deliverable using a SaaS solution. So you don't even you don't have to deploy any kind of Guardicore appliance or anything like that. So it's much simpler to implement. You saw the things that the policy engine can do. So policy can adapt to different use cases. And I'm sure that I only covered 5, you probably have hundreds more. So we can adapt to those. And you get process level, user level visibility to what your users are doing, which is helpful for security, but also for building policy. And all of that with reduced cost, reduced operational cost, and reduced server and hardware costs. That's it. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any kind of questions, now would be a great time to ask them about my part or Eran's part, this is the time to answer. I see one question about SIEM, which Eran answered. Yes, if you have a SIEM, you can get alerts. Any type of malicious activity in Centra can be immediately sent to the SIEM as well. We have integrations with the QRadar, ArcSight, Splunk, whatever SIEM you're using, it's possible to integrate with it very easily. Any other questions, guys? Now's the time. And Eran, if you have anything to add, by the way, feel free. Okay, does the solution support multi-tenancy? Great question. So most of our customers actually consume this solution using SaaS. So a single customer gets access to a SaaS cloud console, which helps him manage his own environment. Okay, so for our SaaS customers, each customer gets his own dedicated SaaS console. If we're talking about on-prem multi-tenancy, so single Guardicore console, which supports massive amount of customers, that's something that we partially support, but I'd love to explain more details about multi-tenancy and to hear your needs. You're an anonymous attendee, but I'd be happy to continue this conversation. So get in touch with us later or personally with me. I'll write my email address here in the chat so we can reply. Can you elaborate on the adaptation phase, known incompatibilities, what kind of preparation one needs to do while designing the solution on a specific customer? Eran, I think you can answer this better than I do. Generally, what we want to make sure before the deployment is just to understand the environment a bit, what kind of operating systems you use. For example, we support all main versions of Windows and Linux, including very, very old Linux servers, as well as Solaris and AIX. But usually before deployment, we do want to know more about the environment, what kind of servers you have. Generally, almost always we support all of the servers, and then there aren't any known incompatibilities. You can deploy Guardicore concurrently with existing security solutions. You don't have to remove them. You don't have to take away your firewalls or remove your antivirus or anything like that. Guardicore lives side by side with those solutions. Eran, if you have anything to add.
Actually, this is what I wanted to say. So regarding the OS, this is something that we see sometimes, but it depends on the OS that is deployed to the customer. It is something that we can prepare from advance, understand what we're going into. And regarding the other security tools, again, this is something that usually we work side by side with no problems. And the problem that I personally witnessed is, for example, an antivirus that could suspect that the Guardicore is a virus, but then you just whitelist the agent, and that's it. No special issues in the adaptation or in the implementation phase other than that, basically.
Thank you for the questions. Thank you, Dimitris. More questions before we wrap things up? Okay, interoperability for integrating billing system in multi-tenancy environment to automate ordering and configuration changes. If what you're imagining is an on-prem system with that, so we don't have that kind of thing today built in the product, but
I think this is something we can take offline for a detailed technical.
Definitely. Yeah. I'd like to understand more. So Duane, if you can email Eran or me or Nikos, and we can continue that discussion offline. I think because this is a very specific scenario. We do have customers doing similar things. Let's talk about that. Thank you.
Sorry. Guys, I'm gonna send my my email to everyone. Okay. If you have questions or other things you want to ask, feel free. Okay, I'll be our technical contact here. You can get my email from the chat.
Okay, Nikos.
Okay.
I think,
Okay, Lior. Okay, Ran.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, really, for this presentation and live demo. Hope was clear for all participants here in this session. The features, the benefit of this solution, which we consider unique, actually. Everybody keep in mind that we're moving away from the classical, let's say, perimeter security view. We are moving into the system level, protecting the data center inside, east-west traffic, private public cloud, or hybrid scenarios. So we really think this is a unique solution. Maybe, okay, other questions will pop up on the way. Feel free to ask. You have Eran and Lior contacts already. You have our contact. You can ask us directly. We can move maybe to specific demo, presentation, workshops with each one of you. Proof of concepts, whatever suits. And we'll be glad to hear you again. And most important, seeing you again in person in short time. Okay. I don't know if questions still coming okay. I think we're okay now. So thank you all again for your participation. You will be distributed material and recording of this session, and always at your disposal for any further info. Thank you. And thank you again, guys, dear Eran. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikos.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Nikos.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Thanks. Bye.